All right, Brainology. That's what we're going to cover today. I am super stoked. Actually, we're going to cover Brainology and appropriation, but let's start with Brainology. Okay, so the whole thing, I love Brainology, and the whole point of all this is to understand who are we, how do we think, and why do we have the mindsets that we have, right? Majority of us, let's be honest, we have a fixed mindset. If you've done the reading, you already know what I'm talking about, all right? So we have a fixed mindset. We also have a growth mindset. Now that fixed mindset, the problem with the fixed mindset is our assumption is that we have a literal fixed finite amount of knowledge and we can't get more no matter what. If I don't know it, I'm never going to know it. That's a fixed mindset. If it's hard, I'm just too dumb. That's a fixed mindset. All right, but that's actually wrong. It is incorrect. Okay, we are not born smart. We are not born athletic. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes experience. Okay, experience is a key word. We're going to talk about that a little bit in composition. So, first and foremost, if you feel you have a fixed mindset where something becomes hard and you shut down and you don't want to do it anymore, it might have been how you were raised. Unfortunately, fixed mindsets come from the wrong type of support, right? So someone might say, you're so smart, you're so smart. And then if you don't know something, you don't feel so smart. Well, the difference between quote unquote being smart is also putting in effort, right? So if someone your whole life had said, oh, you're so smart, your assumption is that you are smart versus the effort in which you put in. That would be a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset knows, hey, look, life is hard, shit gets hard sometimes, I'm gonna have to do some actual work, okay? In order to become the thing that I want, I have to do the work to get there, okay? So that's a growth mindset. So the growth mindset doesn't take things that are hard personal. They don't think that they're dumb. They just recognize this is new. I've never done this before. How in the world would I ever know how to do this if I've never done it before? Okay? So I want you to know there's a lot of things, probably in this class especially, that you've never done before. And that's okay. And you might go, oh, I don't know how to do this reading and I don't know this word and I don't blah. And, pause and trust the fact that you're learning. That's what we're doing here. We're just learning. So don't give yourself, don't shoot yourself in the foot and be like, oh, if I don't know it, I'm never going to know it. That's actually wildly incorrect. Because when you think about athletes aren't born good. They train, they work hard. It is not something that maybe initially they might have been kind of good at something, but they weren't Olympians just because they were born into being Olympians. Had a lot of work, they had training, they maybe even had money, maybe, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that make something or somebody this way, and usually it's the work and it's the effort. So, in order to be good at something, you have to put on effort. If it's hard, that's good. That means you're learning something. Ta-da! Okay, so if you feel like there's something hard, it's the readings, it's whatever, pause, give yourself grace, trust the process, and just say, I can do this. I can do this because I'm going to keep doing it. And the more that I do it, and the more practice that I get, the better I'll become. Boom. That applies to everything, right? Everything in the world. So, that being the case, we are going to apply it to cultural competency. Now, you might be going, what is cultural competency? I get you. I'm here for you. There is a reading that I send you a link to, but it's also in the lecture notes. You're going to see that in the module. And I'm going to kind of walk you through understanding what different types of mindsets are. There is the fixed mindset, right? That's the myth. We're going to call fixed mindsets a myth. Fixed mindsets are lies that we tell ourselves or we think or whatever. Those are not true. Okay, the fixed mindset is a lie. That's the myth. We're going to put that over here. Now, when we have the truth, that's the growth mindset, the actuality, right? The real thing. All right? So we're going to kind of try and dissect this when it comes to culture. So the reason why I say this is this could apply to beliefs that you have towards a person, place, or thing, right? It could be your belief towards religion, or maybe someone's sexuality, or maybe someone's orientation, or whatever the case, right? Like we have a certain mindset on a thing. Oftentimes, it's this fixed mindset of either, I'll give you some examples. There's 4 different types of fixed mindsets when it comes to, again, cultural competency, understanding others. All we're doing here is trying to figure out ourselves and figure out others, right? And just be kind of mindful of it, right? Pretty simple. So the first myth is that we make mistakes. Like say we make a mistake that we accidentally call somebody by the wrong pronoun or something like that, right? It's no big deal. It happens. Just be respectful and be like, oh, sorry, how can I correct myself, right? It's not that big of a deal. We're just respecting people, okay? That's all we're doing. So say you made a mistake and maybe you were unintentionally, like, just, I hate to say the word ignorant, but you just didn't know, right? You just didn't know, and that's fine. You cannot know, and then someone can tell you, and then you can know. Ta-da, right? Rather than being angry and, oh, I'm never going to get this, right? That's the fixed mindset. I'm never going to get this, and it must be because I'm not culturally competent. I just don't know. Meh. And you throw your hands out at whatever it is, okay? You don't have to do that because you can recognize, like, we don't know all the things. Everything's new, right? Like, I feel like I'm still learning stuff. I'm all, how the hell would I not know that? I got 2 masters. I've been doing this a long time. I just didn't know. And I can go, you know what? It's okay. So that first fixed mindset, that first myth about culture is us assuming that, you know what, we just don't know. We're never going to know. That's a lie. That is a lie. You can know. In fact, as a growth mindset, the truth is, mistakes or not, you can always change your behaviors. You can always accept. You can always understand. You can always something, right? We make mistakes. You can always change your mind in this world. You don't have to be set on one thing. Change it up. You never know, right? That's the part of critical thinking. Sometimes we get more information and go, oh, I can change my mind because I have more information and now I get it. Totally okay to do that, right? Cultural competency. Myth number 2. This myth leaves us like kind of afraid to speak our minds for fear of being publicly shamed, right? It keeps us focusing on our intentions rather than our impact. Like, what's my intention? Well, I was trying to be, I was just trying to be this and this. It's like, well, while yes, we see that you were trying to do something, what's the impact? What's the negative impact? Or maybe even the positive impact, right? So that's the understanding that we're trying to pull from this. We try to prove that our moral worth by debasing others who have displayed shortcomings, okay? The idea here is when we talk about speak our truth, we're not just saying whatever the hell we want because we just want to say it. That's not the point. What's the impact of the things that we say, right? Maybe you're ashamed to stand up for somebody's truth or somebody's, in a positive way. Maybe you're afraid of that because you're afraid you'll be publicly shamed when the right thing to do is to stand up for that person, right? So the fixed mindset is the assumption of, the fixed mindset's fear. Okay, now that growth mindset, the truth, is to say that we understand that good people make mistakes. Maybe you did accidentally do something and you're like, dang it, I wish I'd stood up. I wish I'd done something more, okay? Or maybe you kind of said something not realizing that wasn't the thing to say. And you're like, oh, no. Mistakes don't define us, right? Not knowing the right thing to do in that moment, it happens sometimes. And then you will learn, and then you will be told, or then you will experience, and you'll know better. And then again, you can change your mind, you can change your behaviors, right? When others make mistakes, we are likely to respond with patience and a desire to help and teach and understand, right? That's our goal. Someone makes a mistake, it's rare that someone's like, oh, you idiot. Like, we don't usually do that as, normal, as people sometimes. Oftentimes we like to go, look, I get it. You made a mistake. Here, let me help guide you. This is what I've learned. This is how I learned it. And we help understand them. So we can also give ourselves that same grace, okay? It's possible to dislike an action without disliking the person. That's very important to understand, right? Again, someone can do something or maybe you did something, and it's okay that you can make a mistake or someone else can make a mistake or do something, but it's not necessarily them that you don't like, it's their action and behavior. And then that opens up a opportunity for conversation, right? Okay. Myth number 3 is that we slip into competency, right? Complacency, where we're just like, oh, whatever, you assume you know all the things, and so you're not willing to take in more information. So say you think you know something about a topic or whatever, and you're like, I already know. But someone has new information. It's important for you to go, oh, I see, I thought I knew. Turns out I don't know as much as I thought I did, right? And so the truth is that we have to be constantly engaging ourselves into regular questioning and learning and understanding other people's differences and, kind of how can we break down some of our biases? Like, we all have biases. We all have experiences in life that has created a certain thing inside us that makes us react a certain way. That's life. That's just how it is. But we can also take that and recognize it and go, I recognize I have a certain reaction when I hear a certain thing or I see a certain thing. Why is that? And then we kind of dig into it and we recognize it and go, I guess I could work on that, right? And that's okay. Again, we change our minds, we change our attitudes, okay? And that's the whole point of this, is that fixed mindset, these lies that we tell ourselves that we can't change, we can't do better. Once we do something terrible, we're just terrible people. And that's not the truth. The truth is we can change, we can be better, we can try. And sometimes, like me, oh my God, I hate making mistakes. Oh, I get so angry with myself. That's how I learn. That's the worst part. I do stupid things and then I get stupid results. And I'm like, oh, I wish I figured it out the first time. But then I learned, because I felt so terrible when I did something wrong the first time, that I go out of my way to try and do it right the second time. So just keep that in mind. All right, real quick on composition, and then I'm pretty much done with this. I'm going to go into appropriation in 1 second. Composition is literacy and identity. So the reason why I say this, as we're diving into this class, when you're composing something, to be a composer, you have to have literacy. We'll talk about literacy in a second. You have to have literacy and understanding. Literacy is experience and critical thinking. You have to have your literacy, and then you have to have your identity. So to compose, literate, that's a part of reading and experience and all that stuff. And then you actually have to have identity. So who are you? And that's what we're going to try and find out. So right now we're going to be working on identity, and then we're going to be working a little bit more and sprinkling in a little bit of literacy too. Literacy isn't wholly just knowing how to read. Like, some of us have a better literacy than others, but literacy encompasses all kinds of things. Like, some of y'all on this TikTok, I'm just like, how do you know how to do that? Like, I've tried, I'm an idiot. Right? And so some of you are like wildly literate in TikTok, but for me, I'm like, well, I'm literate in other ways, right? Like putting puzzles together or something. You know what I mean? We each have different ways in which we are maybe good at something, and maybe we're just not there yet, right? But to be good, to be literate in something, you have to have experience. So sometimes we might not be literate in something because we just haven't had the experience. That's like all the reading we do. Like, maybe you don't feel literate, but that's just because you haven't been doing a lot of reading. So I'm trying to give it to you, to give you all this experience, right? So that also includes critical thinking. The key to critical thinking is trusting the fact that while you may have originally had a thought about a thing, as you get more information and more experience, oh, what do you know? You can change your mind. You can change your mind, you can change your attitudes, you can change your behaviors, whatever you got to do. You can. It's okay. All right? And if someone's going to get mad at you for, like, you know, learning new things and, you know, experiencing and getting to know and love humanity, that's weird. I mean, but to each their own. I'm just saying, trust yourself, trust the process, and trust that you can do this. I promise you. Have a growth mindset as we move forward. And that being the case, take a really quick quiz on Brainology, and then I'm going to lean us into appropriation to the best of my abilities. You're going to have a couple other videos as well, and we're good to go.